What's going on, beautiful people? Today, I'm going to talk about my personal experience with Retatrutide, the GLP-3 hormone. Now, what does it do? So, first of all, Retatrutide is a pretty new product, and we got some information on it, we got some data on it, which suggests that it helps with weight loss, it suppresses the appetite, it stimulates your pancreas to produce more glucagon, which suppresses the appetite, so you're less hungry. And supposedly is supposed to help people reduce their cravings and sugar cravings, binge eating issues, and all that stuff. So, once when you get lean, let's say to a point where I am, and I just want to maintain, your life becomes a constant struggle of eating less. Okay. When you're trying to stay lean, it's always a good idea to eat less. Just keep the protein high and eat as little calories as possible. So appetite is really high because the body naturally wants to gain some weight and put on some body fat. That's why maintaining body fat at the low percentages is fairly difficult. Now, when I heard about Retatrutide and I saw my friends having great results on it, I'm like, I'm going to give it a shot. So I started taking Reta, and the effects started kicking in about 24 hours. I felt suppression in the appetite. Not too big though. I felt like I want to eat less, like I don't need to eat as many calories, but it wasn't a significant difference. I would say it was about a 35% reduction in appetite, which is still better than what it used to be. Now, that remained the same for about week 1 to 6. From week 6 to 12, I felt probably another 10% of appetite reduction, and the diet became a lot easier. I just didn't think about the food. And it literally feels like you got 25% of your brain back because you don't even realize, but once when you're constantly focused on a diet and you constantly focus on eating less and less, you're investing your brain energy into it. So you're focusing on the conversations that are happening in your head. I shouldn't eat it. I should eat less. I want to stay on track. I'm not going to binge eat and all that stuff around. Now, Reta takes all that internal battle away. And you can actually start focusing on other stuff in life, like job, money, finances, relationships, whatever is on your agenda. But if food is not really a debate anymore. Now, I found that extremely beneficial because I could just eat my protein, eat my steak, eggs, bacon, stuff like that, sometimes some fruit before the workout, and just move on with my day, not worry about the food at all. But where the major appetite suppression happened was at week 14. Now that thing completely shut down my appetite, where I could barely get in like 120 grams of protein from the food. So what did I do? Throughout the whole time, I was, of course, taking Fortigen, which is the essential amino acids, to supplement for the missing protein from the food. That was preventing me from losing muscle. Now at week 14, I literally had to convince myself to eat 8 ounces of steak. It was a struggle. So Reta definitely works stronger as the time passes. And I kind of noticed like my body entered like a fluent state of non-desired state to eat. Like you just enter the flow where you don't think about the food you don't want to eat, and you can literally fast for days if you wanted to. So at that point, I was already like 12 pounds down. I didn't really intend to lose that much. I had probably like 5 or 6 pounds to lose, but I went down 12 pounds with no effort whatsoever. I didn't do any extra cardio. I didn't focus on it. I didn't increase the intensity of my workouts. Nothing. Literally just increased or introduced Retatrutide in my lifestyle, and the body weight started falling off just naturally due to caloric reduction. It was effortless, okay? But since I already got 12 pounds down and my initial goal was not to lose weight in the first place, I decided to take a break because I couldn't eat even a sufficient amount of food. And my focus at the moment is really performance. So I squeezed the most out of it. Now, I introduced Retatrutide to a lot of my clients. And a lot of my clients had binge eating issues, right? Like they would eat the right stuff, but at the same time, at the restaurant, they would snack on their children's calamari and cheesecake. They wouldn't have the entire slice of cheesecake, but just a couple bites. And that turned out to be just enough not to make any progress. So I find people do this mistake a lot. They don't cheat enough to gain weight, but just enough to stay the same. After introducing Retatrutide in their lifestyle, they completely stopped cheating, they stopped binge eating, and they started making progress. Like, for example, I had people who for 2-3 years couldn't make a progress with the weight loss, And after about 3 or 4 weeks on Reta, they dropped 17 pounds just because they cleaned up their diet and their natural desire and interest to eat junk food went away. The relationship they had with the sugar and with the fried food and alcohol naturally disappeared. So they were actually able to stay on track. So when I was looking at all of my clients, how they quickly changed their behavior, I found this to be incredibly efficient. Now, people who have a longer journey to go, let's say they have 50, 60 pounds to lose, once when you hit that 14-week mark, it turns out to be a heaven for the weight loss, because even a calorie deficiency makes you feel stuffed. What happens a lot of times with obese people, they're constantly searching and looking for the feeling of being full, uncomfortably full. Okay, it's like a drug. They can't really explain it, but they look for it. And every single time they feel a certain emotion, they turn to food. They're bored, they're gonna eat. They're sad, they're gonna eat away their depressions. They feel happy, they book a restaurant with their friend to celebrate. Okay, so every emotion results in eating more. People on Retatrutide stopped doing this behavior, and that pretty much opened up the door for them to stay on track with the diet and nutrition. And finally, the nutrition delivered the results that they were looking for. So psychologically, Retatrutide, I would say, is one of the most beneficial supplements I ever seen, because I wasn't really a supplement guy in the first place. Like, I didn't really take a whole lot of supplements myself. In terms of normal supplements, I only really stuck to the Fortigen. And when Retatrutide was introduced to me, I gave it a shot, and it's one of the peptides that I really loved. So when I have to summarize my entire experience, it definitely helped me to eat a lot less, to kill all of the cravings, and to focus on other stuff in my life than just the diet. I stopped having these internal battles in my mind that I should eat less, I should watch myself. I stopped having these conversations, so I pretty much gained 25% of my brain back, and I could invest that energy into something else. Now, what I was the most surprised by is that the data suggests that Retatrutide helps you control and regulate your blood glucose. I didn't really understand, or basically I didn't really expect how powerful it will be in the glucose regulation, because after 16 weeks on Retatrutide, I measured my morning glucose and it was 63, okay? My fasting glucose. After a meal, carnivore meal with some food, it was 76. I went to work out and I brought it back down to 65. I didn't do any intense workout, just my regular routine. I didn't do extra cardio, none of that stuff. So I'm pretty much ranging between 60 and 80 milligrams of glucose per deciliter in my blood, which is the most stable blood sugar I've ever had. Now, first of all, my diet is clean, my diet is good, but even on a good diet, I used to range between 80 and 110. So I dropped about 20 to 30 points as my standard. I became much more fat adaptive, which means that my body can actually metabolize ketones as a primary source of energy, and that allows my body to drop the glucose levels in the blood to lower ranges. Now, that is phenomenal for the metabolic health and for the insulin sensitivity when you can run on such a low glucose levels and feel amazing, because you're metabolically flexible. That means that your body can switch back and forth from fat adaptation to glucose metabolism whenever it's necessary without any signs and symptoms of hyperglycemia, etc. Versus when a person who would be on a glucose metabolism consuming a lot of sugar, if they fell down to 60 milligrams per deciliter, they would most likely enter a state of hyperglycemia. They would get the symptoms of being shaky, irritated, nervous, heavy breathing, etc. Okay, so they would have to actually start consuming more sugar to balance out their glucose levels in their blood. Now, that didn't happen at all after taking Retatrutide and developing phenomenal metabolic flexibility. I became much more fat adapted, and having low blood sugar levels is very beneficial for the longevity. So Retatrutide was a phenomenal tool how I could drop my standard basic glucose levels by 20 to 30 points. So that turns out to be a very beneficial product for a person who has a pre-diabetic state or type 2 diabetes or even type 1 diabetes. You will stop binging, your blood glucose will be regulated a lot better, and most importantly, it will take away the stress and the pressure of dieting, okay? The major issue with the diet, in most of the cases, is not the diet itself, is the people's discipline. You have to be tremendously disciplined to stay on track. Now, first, when you sign up for my program for the first 3-4 weeks, you're naturally very motivated. You're motivated, you're starting a new protocol, you spend the money, you feel committed. But this commitment slowly fades away. Okay, this motivation slowly fades away, and the only thing you're left with is the discipline. Now, discipline turns out to be hard. Okay, some people are more disciplined and some people are less disciplined, and the same goes pretty much for the level of the commitment. So in the beginning, everybody is the most committed, and after they're left with the discipline only, not everybody can get to their goal because they're not disciplined enough. Oftentimes, I see people who need to lose 40 pounds, they lose 20 pounds, and they just stuck. They cannot convince themselves to stay on track to lose the remaining 20. Now, Retatrutide makes it simple. It keeps you away from the binge eating, and it keeps you away from the bad habits, and it keeps you away from going back to the old habits. Okay, because you naturally don't care about the food. It's a weird feeling. I never experienced that before because we all have our favorite foods, right? And if you put my favorite food in front of me, for example, sushi, I generally wouldn't care. I genuinely wouldn't care about sushi when I'm on 3 milligrams of Retatrutide. Now, how much Retatrutide is enough? So I'm 250, stage 3, and I use 3 milligrams, and I experienced all these results. Appetite suppression after 24 hours, then enhanced appetite suppression after about week 6, but week 14, that's when the appetite was just completely gone, okay? That all happened at 3 milligrams. I started dosing slowly. I started at 1 milligram, felt nothing. Went up to 2 milligrams, felt pretty good. About week 3 or 4, I started 2.5 milligrams. And by 5th week, I was continuously on 3 milligrams, and I haven't changed that dose. So for most people who weigh less than me, I usually suggest start at 2 milligrams. Like a 6-foot male at 200 pounds, 2 milligrams is usually enough. For most of the cases with my clients that I've seen, people feel great appetite suppression at 2 milligrams. For females, let's say females are at 170, 160, you can start at 1 milligram and see how you feel. Also, dose it before you go to bed. In case you felt a little bit of nausea, a little bit of headache, just take it before you go to bed. You'll sleep through it. One time, I remember I took Retatrutide at about 4 p.m., and I felt a little bit of nausea for like an hour. By 5 p.m., the nausea was gone, but I didn't really feel comfortable, which was new to me because I never felt uncomfortable from Retatrutide before. But also, I always took it before I went to sleep, so if I felt something, I slept through it. So some of my clients reported that they felt a little discomfort and a little nausea if they took it during the day as well. Everybody who takes it before bed feels nothing, just appetite suppression the next day. So that's why I recommend take it before bed, because once when it starts working, once when it starts kicking in, and especially if it's a new substance in the body, you might feel a little nauseous, you might probably feel a little headache, but usually by week 2 or 3, it's all gone, the body gets used to it, and it really has no side effects, no noticeable side effects whatsoever. I didn't notice anything except perfect blood sugar, never had better blood sugar in my life, didn't have to think about food, I didn't have to convince myself that I have to last in this deficit, I didn't have to have internal battles, and I didn't have to fight the hunger cravings, which made losing 12 pounds effortless. And if I needed to lose 30 pounds, I would just continue in this state of flow state where I don't feel like I want to eat at all. So this was my experience with the Retatrutide. I actually have some Reta on my own. Now I got my own supplies. So if you need Retatrutide, you want to give it a shot, just shoot me a message. I'll explain it to you how it works. In my private group on Facebook, I have videos how to mix it properly and also how to inject it. It goes into the fat with the small insulin needles. So what you're going to need is the reconstitution water and also the insulin needles, right? And once when you get that, you mix the compound, you let it sit for about 5 minutes until it clears out. There's no more foam at the top. And after that, you pretty much get the dose that you want. Suggested is 2 milligrams, which is 20 units in the insulin syringe. You apply it into your stomach, and then it works on its own. So if you have any more questions about the Reta, let me know, guys. Shoot me a DM on Instagram or Facebook, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Goodbye.